Mother Teresa once said, "Let no one ever come to you without leaving happier." The idea of selflessness has been one people have had forever. It's even mentioned many times within the Bible. One of these examples is Philippians 2:3, which says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, rather, in humility value others above yourselves." We live in a world full of hate, deceit, and selfishness. The world would be a much better place if it were full of selfless people. This speech will inform my audience of 3 examples of selflessness, in the hopes that they will take something from these examples to better themselves and their communities. I've been researching this topic, and I see the changes selfless people make every day, no matter how large or small they are. Selflessness is one of the most important traits a person can have, for it evokes positive emotions in others and therefore in ourselves. I'll present 3 anecdotes involving selflessness, and I'll explain how each of them represents selflessness. First comes the story of Gandhi, one of the most popular humanitarians in history. According to History.com, in July of 2010, Gandhi worked to peacefully achieve India's freedom from Great Britain after World War I. He won numerous hunger strikes to protest the oppression of the poor in India, and he worked for peace between Hindus and Muslims. This story comes from Prakashire.com in October of 2015. As a young man, Gandhi was awaiting a train back to India from England. When the train arrived, it didn't stop. Back then in Britain, trains would not make a complete stop unless white men were getting on, and there were no white men, so the train slowed and all the people waiting had to scramble on the train. As Gandhi was boarding, one of his shoes fell off his foot and into the gap between the train and the platform. He quickly removed the other shoe and threw it in the gap as well. Another passenger saw this and asked why he did that. Gandhi said, "Ah well, if someone was to find one of my shoes, hopefully he'll find the other one, and thus have a fine new pair of shoes for himself." After losing a shoe, Gandhi was not angry, annoyed, or pitiful. He thought of a poor man that may walk along the platform who needed shoes. He thought the joy of a new pair of shoes would bring to someone else instead of worrying about what he lost. Let's move on to another famous humanitarian who, like Gandhi, was known for her good works for others, Mother Teresa. According to Natalia Melman Petrozel at History.com, Mother Teresa was part of the Missionaries of Charity, and she worked on helping the poor in Calcutta, India. She built care centers where the poor, sick, and dying could come to receive care before they died. She taught children by drawing in the dirt of Calcutta, and she spoke out against world leaders who made poverty such a big issue. She helped the poor from 1950 until her death in 1997 and received a Nobel Peace Prize in 1979. Libby Lowe, author of an article on learningtogive.org, is the source of Mother Teresa's story. While Mother Teresa was a missionary in Calcutta, she was quoted as saying, "One day, in a heap of rubbish, I found a woman who was half dead. Her body was bitten by rats and by ants. I took her to a hospital, but they told me that they didn't want her because they couldn't do anything for her. I protested and said that I wouldn't leave unless they hospitalized her. They had a long meeting and finally granted my request. This woman was saved." This selfless act of Mother Teresa caused her to realize that there needed to be places built to help the poor, sick, and dying. So she requested a building from city officials. She was given one, which she called Nirmal Hriday, or Pure Heart. This place was where the homeless, sick, and dying people of Calcutta could go to be saved or to die peacefully. After she created Nirmal Hriday, Mother Teresa continued to make more care centers all over the world. She ended up creating homes for the dying, sick, orphaned, for lepers, the elderly, disabled, and AIDS victims. Rather than turning a blind eye to the oppressed of the world, Mother Teresa decided to help them. It would have been easier to let the woman and all the people she saved through Pure Heart die alone, but Mother Teresa wanted them to die in a loving environment. She didn't want anyone feeling unworthy or they were not good enough, and no one cares for them. Now that I've spoken about 2 famous humanitarians, I will now tell the story of a professional athlete of today who is similarly selfless. Ivan Fernandez Anaya is a Spanish cross-country runner. He ran in a race on December 2nd, 2017, and was just behind Olympic gold medalist Abel Mutai. When he noticed Mutai stopped running. Carlos Arribas, in December 2017, wrote this story for elpais.com. Anaya was running behind Mutai when he saw him stop about 10 meters before the finish line. He was emotional and celebrating because he thought that that was the finish line. When Anaya caught up to Mutai, instead of passing him and winning, he pointed Mutai to the finish line, allowing him to finish first. Anaya said, "I didn't deserve to win. I did what I had to do. He was the rightful winner. He created a gap that I couldn't have closed if he hadn't made a mistake. As soon as I knew he was stopping, I knew I wasn't going to pass him." Anaya could have taken the opportunity to pass Mutai and win the race, but his act of selflessness caused him to come in second place. However, Anaya would have felt wrong if he did not tell Mutai of his mistake. He did not want to be awarded for something he didn't deserve. Now that I've spoken of the 3 selfless people, I'd like to recap what you've heard throughout the speech. It can be seen through these examples that selflessness does have a positive impact on others and therefore ourselves. I first spoke of Gandhi, who threw a second shoe down a train platform after his first one fell off so a poor man could have a new pair of shoes. Then, I described Mother Teresa's reasoning for opening centers where the poor, sick, and dying could die peacefully. Lastly, I told the story of a professional athlete, Ivan Fernandez Anaya, who helped another win a race when he mistook where the finish line was. Acts of selflessness do not have to be grand gestures. Whether you're sharing your coat, helping at a canned food drive, or paying for someone's dinner, you're able to change the world one small selfless step at a time.